I was under the hood of my Chevy Silverado, grease up to my elbows, when my phone buzzed against the concrete floor of my garage. The text that appeared on the cracked screen made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly Jessica. I want an open marriage. I'm seeing Derek again, not up for debate. Jess? Derek, her college boyfriend, the same pretentious asshole who drove a BMW his daddy bought and wore polo shirts in December. I wiped my hands on an old rag and typed back, "Glad we're being mature about this." Her response came instantly. "Good. I knew you'd understand, Mike." Understand? Oh, sweetheart. You're about to see exactly what I understand. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. See, Jessica always thought she was the smart one in our marriage. She had the college degree, the office job at her uncle's real estate firm, the manicured nails that never touched anything dirtier than her keyboard. Meanwhile, I was just Mike Sullivan, the guy who fixed trucks and owned a small auto repair shop on the wrong side of town. The guy who wasn't good enough for the country club crowd but was convenient enough to pay the mortgage on our suburban house. What Jessica didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been watching, waiting, learning. You don't survive 15 years in the auto repair business without developing a keen sense of when someone's trying to screw you over, and my dear wife had been broadcasting her intentions louder than a diesel engine with a blown muffler. I'd seen the late-night texts, the mysterious work meetings that required her to dress like she was going to a nightclub, the way she'd started talking about Derek again, casually, of course, just mentioning how successful he'd become, how he'd gotten that promotion at the marketing firm, how he'd bought that beautiful house by the lake. The funny thing about people like Jessica is they think everyone else is stupid. They think that because you work with your hands instead of pushing papers, you can't see the bigger picture. They think that because you didn't go to some fancy university, you don't understand strategy. They're wrong. I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. 3 simple calls that would change everything. Call number 1, Jessica's parents. "Hi, Mrs. Henderson. It's Mike. I hope I'm not calling too late." I kept my voice steady, concerned. "I just got a text from Jessica, and I wanted to make sure you knew what was happening before you heard it from someone else." There was a pause. "What kind of text, Mike?" "She's told me she wants an open marriage so she can see Derek again. Her exact words were, 'Not up for debate. I'm forwarding you the screenshot now.'" The gasp on the other end was audible. She said what? "I know this is hard to hear, Mrs. Henderson. I just thought you should know. I'm sure she'll call you soon to explain." Call number 2, Vernon Henderson, Jessica's uncle and boss. "Vernon, it's Mike Sullivan. Sorry to bother you at home, but I thought you'd want to know that Jessica's been using company resources for personal matters. She's been meeting her ex-boyfriend during work hours and using company travel for their activities. I have documentation if you need it." Vernon's voice went cold. "What kind of documentation?" "Hotel receipts charged to the company card. GPS data from the company car showing trips to Derek's house during work hours. Text messages discussing their meetings. I can email everything to you tonight." "Do it," he said, and hung up. Call number 3. This one was my favorite. "Is this Melissa Parker, Derek's wife?" I'd found her number in the phone book. Old school, but effective. "Yes. Who is this?" "Mike Sullivan. I'm married to Jessica Henderson. I think we need to talk. Your husband and my wife have been having an affair, and they just decided to make it official. I have proof." The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Then, what kind of proof? "Photos, text messages, hotel records, everything. Would you like to meet tomorrow to discuss our options?" "Yes," she said quietly. "Yes, I would." By the time I finished the 3rd call, my phone was already ringing. Jessica's ringtone, some pop song she'd downloaded that always made my teeth itch. "Mike, what the hell did you do?" Her voice was shrill, panicked. "My parents are freaking out, and Vernon just called screaming about company policy violations." I leaned against my workbench, admiring the sunset through the garage window. "You wanted an open marriage, honey. I opened it. Wide open, transparent, you might say. You can't just... This isn't how what? How adults handle things? You're right. Adults would have had a conversation before making unilateral decisions about their marriage. Adults wouldn't have been sneaking around for months. But hey, we're being mature about this, remember?" The line went quiet, except for her ragged breathing. "Where are you?" she finally asked. "Home, in the garage, working on the truck. You know, the one you always complained about because it wasn't as nice as Derek's BMW. "I'm coming home?" "Sure thing, I'll be here. What I didn't tell her was that I'd already changed the locks. Jessica's Honda Accord pulled into our driveway at 8:47 p.m. I know because I was watching from the kitchen window, drinking a beer and eating leftover pizza. She sat in the car for a full 2 minutes before getting out, probably psyching herself up for whatever conversation she thought we were about to have. I watched her walk up to the front door, designer heels clicking on the concrete walkway. She'd dressed up for Derek tonight. Black dress, perfect makeup, hair done at that expensive salon downtown. She looked beautiful, and for just a moment, I felt a pang of something that might have been regret. Then she tried her key. The confused look on her face when it didn't work was priceless. She tried again, jiggling the handle, before finally ringing the doorbell. I opened the door but left the chain lock engaged. "Hey there, stranger." "Mike, what's wrong with my key?" "Nothing's wrong with it. It just doesn't work here anymore." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean it doesn't work here anymore?" "I mean, I changed the locks. This is my house, Jessica. My name on the deed, my money that paid for it, my credit that secured the mortgage. You made it pretty clear you don't want to be married to me anymore, so why would you need access to my house? You can't just lock me out of my own home." "Actually, I can. Legally speaking, you abandoned the marital residence when you chose to pursue another relationship. I'm well within my rights to secure my property." I'd spent the afternoon on the phone with my lawyer, Tommy Brennan. Tommy and I went to high school together, and he'd been handling my business legal stuff for years. He'd walked me through exactly what I could and couldn't do, and changing the locks was definitely on the can-do list. Jessica's face was turning red. "This is insane. You're being completely unreasonable." "Am I? Let's see. You decided to cheat on me. You decided to humiliate me by announcing you wanted an open marriage via text message. You decided to use company resources to facilitate your affair, and I'm the one being unreasonable." "I never cheated. Derek and I haven't. We've just been talking." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the photos I'd taken earlier that week. "Is that what you call this?" The picture showed Jessica and Derek kissing in the parking lot of the Marriott downtown. I'd followed her there Tuesday night when she said she was working late. Her face went white. "You followed me?" "I protected my interests. There's a difference." "Mike, please. Can we just talk about this like adults?" "Sure, we can talk. But you're not coming inside. Your stuff is in the garage." I closed the door and walked through the house to the garage, hitting the opener button. The door rolled up to reveal a neat pile of Jessica's belongings. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, her collection of romance novels, the expensive coffee maker her mother had bought her for Christmas. Jessica stood in the driveway staring at her life in boxes. "Say, you packed my things?" "I did. Took me about an hour. Amazing how little space 15 years of marriage actually takes up when you remove all the lies and betrayal." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know. Derek's place? Your parents' house? A hotel? Not really my problem anymore." She started crying then. Big, dramatic tears that smeared her perfect makeup. "Mike, please. I made a mistake. I was confused. Derek and I, it's not what you think." "What I think is that you decided you wanted to trade up, and you figured I'd just roll over and take it. What I think is that you've been planning this for months, and you thought I was too stupid to see it coming. What I think is that you forgot who you were dealing with." My phone rang. Derek's number. "Excuse me," I said to Jessica, and answered. "Mike Sullivan speaking." "Mike, this is Derek. I think we need to talk." "Do we? About what?" "About this situation. About Jessica. I think there's been a misunderstanding." I looked at my wife, still crying in my driveway, mascara running down her cheeks. "No misunderstanding here, Derek. Jessica made her choice. She chose you. Congratulations. You won." "Look, I never meant for it to happen this way." "How did you mean for it to happen? Were you planning to ask my permission first? Send me a formal request? Maybe take out an ad in the newspaper?" Jessica was gesturing frantically for me to hang up, but I was enjoying this too much. "I care about Jessica," Derek said. "I always have, but I don't want to hurt anyone." "Too late for that, buddy. But don't worry about it. I'm not hurt. I'm liberated. You want her? She's yours. Just remember, if she'll cheat with you, she'll cheat on you." I hung up and looked at Jessica. "Your boyfriend wants to talk? Maybe you should call him back." "He's not my—" "Mike, please, just listen to me for 5 minutes." "I listened to you for 15 years. I'm done listening." Mrs. Peterson from next door had come out to water her flowers, which was her way of getting a front row seat to the drama. I waved at her. "Evening, Mrs. Peterson? Beautiful night, isn't it?" She waved back uncertainly. Jessica noticed the audience and lowered her voice. "You're humiliating me." "No, Jessica, You humiliated yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa Parker. Can we meet tomorrow at 10 a.m.? I have some things to show you too. I smiled and typed back, Perfect. Looking forward to it. Who are you texting? Jessica demanded. Derek's wife. Lovely woman. We're having coffee tomorrow to compare notes. The color drained from Jessica's face. You called Melissa? I called everyone who needed to know. Your parents, your boss, Derek's wife. I figured transparency was important in an open marriage. You're destroying my life. I'm revealing your life. There's a difference. She stood there for another few minutes, probably hoping I'd change my mind, invite her inside, tell her we could work it out. When it became clear that wasn't happening, she started loading boxes into her car. This isn't over, Mike, she said as she slammed the trunk. You're right, I replied. It's just getting started. Melissa Parker turned out to be nothing like I expected. Where Jessica was all sharp edges and designer clothes, Melissa was soft and genuine. She had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and wore a simple blue sweater that probably came from Target. She looked like someone who baked cookies for school fundraisers and remembered everyone's birthday. She also looked like someone who was absolutely done with her husband's bullshit. We met at Rosie's Diner on Maple Street, the kind of place that served coffee in thick white mugs and didn't care if you sat there all morning. Melissa was already in a back booth when I arrived, a manila folder on the table in front of her. You must be Mike, she said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for calling me. I've been wondering when someone would finally tell me the truth. You knew? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I suspected. Derek's not as clever as he thinks he is. Late nights at the office, mysterious phone calls, new cologne. Plus, he's been talking about Jessica for months. This woman at work, this client I'm helping, this old friend from college. Always Jessica, never by name, but I knew. I sat down across from her. Why didn't you say anything? What was I supposed to say? Honey, are you cheating on me with Jessica Henderson? I needed proof, and now, thanks to you, I have it. She opened the folder and spread its contents across the table. Bank statements showing charges to expensive restaurants and hotels, credit card receipts for jewelry I was pretty sure Jessica had never shown me, phone records highlighting hundreds of calls and texts between Derek and my wife. I've been documenting everything for 6 months, Melissa said. I hired a private investigator last month. These are his photos. She slid a stack of pictures across the table. Derek and Jessica holding hands in a downtown restaurant. Derek and Jessica kissing in his car. Derek and Jessica entering a hotel room together. Jesus, I muttered. How long has this been going on? At least 8 months, maybe longer. The investigator thinks it started at some real estate conference they both attended last year. Real estate conference? Derek's company handles marketing for several real estate firms, including your wife's uncle's company. The pieces were falling into place. Jessica's sudden interest in professional development, the weekend conferences she'd started attending, the new clothes, the new attitude, the way she'd started looking at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. So, what do you want to do about it? I asked. Melissa's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I want to destroy them. Both of them. Completely. I liked her already. Derek thinks I'm some helpless housewife who'll just roll over and take whatever scraps he throws me, she continued. He has no idea that I've been planning this for months. He doesn't know about the separate bank account I opened, or the fact that I've already consulted with the best divorce attorney in town, or that I've been quietly documenting every asset he thinks he's hidden from me. What about Jessica's job situation? Oh, that's handled. I called Vernon Henderson this morning. Apparently he was already furious about the company credit card charges. When I showed him the hotel receipts and explained how his niece had been using company resources to facilitate her affair, he fired her on the spot. She's fired? Effective immediately. Vernon said something about not tolerating moral turpitude in the family business. I got the impression this wasn't the first time Jessica had disappointed him. I thought about Jessica's face when she'd tried to use her key last night. She probably had no idea yet that she'd lost her job. What about Derek? Melissa's smile got wider. Derek's company has a very strict morality clause in their employment contracts. Something about maintaining professional standards and not engaging in behavior that could damage the company's reputation. I'm meeting with Derek's boss this afternoon. You're going to get him fired too? I'm going to let his boss draw his own conclusions. I'm just providing information. We spent the next hour coordinating our strategies. Melissa had been planning this much longer than I had, and she'd thought of everything. She had copies of financial records, documentation of Derek's lies and deceptions, even recordings of phone conversations where he'd admitted to the affair. The beauty of it, she explained, is that everything I'm doing is completely legal. I'm not stealing anything. I'm not lying about anything. I'm not even being vindictive. I'm just sharing information with people who have a right to know. What about the house? The assets? Derek thinks everything is in both our names, but he's wrong. The house is actually in my name only. My father insisted on it when we bought it. The investment accounts are separate. The only thing Derek actually owns is his car and his golf clubs. And his debt? Oh, that's the best part. Derek's been living way beyond our means for years. The fancy dinners, the expensive hotels, the jewelry for your wife. He's been charging it all to credit cards I knew nothing about, cards that are in his name only. I was beginning to understand why Derek had seemed so nervous on the phone last night. So when you divorce him, he gets nothing. Less than nothing, actually. He'll be responsible for about $60,000 in credit card debt, and he won't have a job to pay it off. And Jessica? Well, that depends on what you want to do, but I have some ideas. Melissa reached into her purse and pulled out another folder. These are copies of all the evidence I've gathered. Photos, financial records, phone logs, everything. I thought you might want your own set. I flipped through the documents, amazed at the level of detail. This must have taken months to put together. It did, but it was worth it. See, Mike, the thing about people like Derek and Jessica is that they think they're smarter than everyone else. They think they can manipulate people and lie and cheat and never face any consequences. They think that because they wear nice clothes and have fancy jobs, they're untouchable. But they're not. No, they're not. And now we're going to prove it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Can we please talk? I'm staying at the Holiday Inn on Route 9, room 237. I showed the message to Melissa. The Holiday Inn? She laughed. That's interesting. That's where Derek told me he was staying last night. Said he needed some space to think. Same hotel? Same hotel. Want to bet they're in the same room? I looked at the address of the Holiday Inn, then at the photos spread across our table. What do you think? Should we pay them a visit? Melissa gathered up her papers and slid them back into the folder. I thought you'd never ask. The Holiday Inn on Route 9 was the kind of place that catered to traveling salesmen and people having affairs. It was clean enough, but it had that generic, temporary feeling that made everyone look like they were doing something they shouldn't be doing. Melissa and I sat in my truck in the parking lot, studying the building layout. Room 237 was on the second floor, facing the parking lot. The curtains were drawn, but there were 2 cars in the spaces below. Jessica's Honda and a silver BMW that Melissa confirmed was Derek's. So they're definitely together, I said. Definitely. The question is, what do we do about it? I'd been thinking about that during the drive over. The old Mike would have stormed upstairs, pounded on the door, and demanded an explanation. But the old Mike was the guy who'd spent 15 years being taken for granted, manipulated, and ultimately betrayed. The new Mike was smarter than that. We document it, I said, pulling out my phone. More evidence for the divorce proceedings. Good thinking, but I have a better idea. Melissa reached into her purse and pulled out a small device I didn't recognize. Bluetooth speaker, she explained. I can connect it to my phone and play audio from anywhere within about 50 feet. What kind of audio? She scrolled through her phone and showed me a list of recordings. Phone conversations between Derek and me over the past few months, including one from last week where he swears he's not seeing anyone else and calls me paranoid for even suggesting it. I was starting to really appreciate Melissa's style. You want to play his own lies back to him while he's in there with my wife? I want to play them loud enough for the whole hotel to hear. Let everyone know exactly what kind of man Derek Parker really is. We got out of the truck and walked across the parking lot. Melissa placed the speaker on the ground directly under the window of room 237, then connected her phone. Derek's voice filled the air, tinny but clear. Melissa, you're being ridiculous. There's no other woman. I love you, and I would never do anything to jeopardize our marriage. Jessica Henderson is just a client, a professional relationship, nothing more. The recording was from 3 days ago. Melissa turned up the volume. I don't know where you're getting these crazy ideas, but you need to stop. There's no affair. There's no secret relationship. I'm working late because I'm trying to build a future for us. A window opened on the first floor, and an elderly man stuck his head out. What the hell is that noise? Just playing some recorded conversations, sir, I called back. Public service announcement about the importance of honesty in marriage. More windows were opening. The hotel parking lot was becoming an impromptu theater. Derek's voice continued. Jessica means nothing to me. She's just another client. If anything, I feel sorry for her husband. The guy's a mechanic or something. Blue collar. Not very bright. She deserves better than that. I felt my jaw clench, but Melissa put a hand on my arm. Let it play. she whispered. The truth is, Melissa, you're the only woman I've ever really loved. Jessica is attractive, I suppose, but she's not you. She's manipulative and selfish. I would never risk what we have for someone like that. That was interesting. Derek talking trash about Jessica to his wife while he was sleeping with her. I wondered if Jessica knew how her boyfriend really felt about her. The door to room 237 flew open, and Derek appeared in the doorway wearing nothing but boxer shorts and a panicked expression. What the hell? He saw Melissa and me standing by the speaker and went pale. Hello, darling, Melissa called sweetly. I thought you might want to hear some of your greatest hits. Jessica appeared behind Derek, wrapped in a hotel bathrobe. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, horror, and finally rage. Turn that off, Derek shouted. Turn what off? Melissa asked innocently. This is just a recording of our conversation from Tuesday night, the one where you promised me you weren't cheating. A small crowd had gathered in the parking lot. Other hotel guests, a few employees, someone who looked like the manager. Derek's voice from the speaker. I swear on my mother's grave, Melissa, there is no affair. Jessica Henderson is nothing to me. Nothing to you? Jessica's voice was shrill. Nothing? Jess, that's not... I didn't mean... You told your wife I was nothing to you. You are nothing to him, Melissa called up. He told me last week that you were just a convenient distraction, a way to boost his ego. That's not true, Derek protested. Play the one from Friday, I suggested. Melissa scrolled through her phone and found another recording. Derek's voice filled the air again. Look, Melissa, if you must know, Jessica is going through a difficult time in her marriage. She's vulnerable, and she's been reaching out to me for support. I feel bad for her, but that's all it is. Pity. Jessica's face was turning an interesting shade of purple. Pity? He also said you were desperate, Melissa added helpfully. Something about how you were throwing yourself at him because your husband wasn't sophisticated enough for you. Derek, is that true? Jessica demanded. No. Yes. I mean, it's complicated. It's not complicated, I called up to them. It's actually pretty simple. You're both liars, you're both cheaters, and now everyone knows it. The hotel manager had reached our little group. Excuse me, but you're disturbing our other guests. Sorry about that, I said, pulling out my wallet. Tell you what, I'll pay for any inconvenience. I handed him a $50 bill. That should cover it. We'll be done in just a minute. Derek had disappeared back into the room, probably to get dressed. Jessica was still standing in the doorway, clutching her robe and looking like she wanted to throw something. Mike, please, she called down. Can we talk about this privately? We are talking privately, I replied. This is as private as it gets. You made your choice, Jessica. You chose Derek. You chose to humiliate me and destroy our marriage. Now you get to live with the consequences. But he doesn't even love me. No, he doesn't. And honestly, I don't think you love him either. I think you love the idea of him. The BMW, the expensive dinners, the feeling of trading up. But you never bothered to find out who he really was. Derek reappeared, now wearing pants and a shirt. He ran down the stairs and across the parking lot toward us. Melissa, let me explain. Explain what? She asked calmly. Explain how you've been lying to me for months. Explain how you've been using our credit cards to wine and dine your girlfriend. Explain how you've been telling me I was paranoid while you were planning to leave me for another woman. I wasn't planning to leave you. No. Then what was this? She held up her phone, showing a text message. This is from yesterday, Derek. You telling Jessica that you were going to ask me for a divorce so you two could be together? Derek's face went white. How did you? I've had access to your phone for months, Derek. I know about everything. The hotel rooms, the restaurants, the jewelry you bought her with our money. I know about the apartment you looked at downtown. I know about the vacation you were planning to take her on next month. Jessica was listening to all of this from the balcony, and her expression was changing from anger to something that looked like fear. Derek, she called down, is that true? Were you really going to leave Melissa for me? Derek looked back and forth between his wife and his girlfriend, trapped between two lies he couldn't reconcile. It's complicated. No, it's not, I said. It's simple. You're a coward, Derek. You wanted to have an affair, but you didn't want to take responsibility for it. You wanted to keep your wife as a safety net while you played around with mine. And now that you've been caught, you don't know which lie to stick with. Derek's phone started ringing. He looked at the screen, and his face went even paler. That's probably your boss, Melissa said cheerfully. I had my meeting with him an hour ago. Lovely man. Very interested in the documentation I provided about your professional conduct. Derek answered the phone with shaking hands. "Hello, Mr. Williams?" Even from 10 feet away, we could hear the shouting on the other end of the line. "Yes, sir. No, sir. I can explain." More shouting. "Fired. But, sir, I've been with the company for—" The line went dead. Derek stared at his phone like it had just bitten him. "Congratulations," I said. "You're now unemployed, about to be divorced, and homeless. How's that working out for you?" Jessica had gone back into the room. Through the thin walls, we could hear her talking on the phone, her voice getting more and more desperate. Mom, I need help. I need somewhere to stay. What do you mean I made my bed? Mom, please." The call ended abruptly. Derek was still standing in the parking lot, looking lost. "Melissa, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." "The only mistake I made was trusting you," Melissa replied. "But don't worry, Derek. I'm fixing that right now." She picked up the Bluetooth speaker and headed back toward my truck. I followed, leaving Derek standing alone in the parking lot of a cheap hotel, unemployed and abandoned. "That felt good," Melissa said as we drove away. "It felt great," I agreed, "but we're not done yet." "What do you mean?" I thought about Jessica's desperate phone call to her mother, about Derek's panicked conversation with his boss, about the way they'd both looked when their carefully constructed lies had come crashing down around them. "I mean, this was just the opening act," I said. "The real show starts now." 3 days later, I was back in my garage working on Mrs. Chen's Toyota when Tommy Brennan stopped by with the divorce papers. Tommy looked like what he was, a small-town lawyer who'd never lost his working-class roots. He drove a 10-year-old Ford, wore off-the-rack suits, and had never forgotten where he came from. "These are brutal, Mike," he said, flipping through the documents. "You sure you want to go this hard?" "I'm sure. Jessica made her choice. Now she gets to live with it." The papers were comprehensive. I was filing for divorce on grounds of adultery, supported by the mountain of evidence Melissa and I had compiled. I was seeking full ownership of the house, the business, and all marital assets. Jessica would get exactly what she'd brought to the marriage. Nothing. "What about spousal support?" "What about it? She's a college graduate with work experience. She can support herself." "Mike, she's going to fight this. Her family has money. They'll hire expensive lawyers." "Let them. We have the truth on our side." Tommy shook his head. "The truth doesn't always win in divorce court." "It will this time." My phone rang. Melissa. "Mike, you need to see this. Can you meet me at Rosie's in 20 minutes? "What's going on?" "Just meet me and bring a camera." I found Melissa in the same back booth we'd used before, but this time she wasn't alone. A woman I didn't recognize sat across from her, mid-30s, blonde, wearing a business suit that screamed expensive lawyer. "Mike, this is Amanda Foster," Melissa said. "She's Derek's ex-girlfriend from before he married me." I sat down, confused. "Okay." Amanda smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "Melissa called me yesterday. Apparently Derek's been using the same playbook for years." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I went through exactly what you're going through now, 5 years ago. Derek was married to his first wife then. Did you know he'd been married before?" "I didn't." "Derek has a pattern," Amanda continued. "He finds married women who are unhappy or vulnerable. He makes them feel special, tells them their husbands don't appreciate them, promises them a better life. Then, when things get complicated, he disappears." "What happened with you?" "I left my husband for Derek, gave up my job, moved across the country to be with him. Then I found out he was already seeing someone else, someone who would become wife number 2. Melissa, who it turns out was also married when Derek started pursuing her. I looked at Melissa, who nodded grimly. "I was. My first husband was a good man, but Derek convinced me he was holding me back. Made me feel like I deserved better. Sound familiar?" It did. It sounded exactly like what Derek had done to Jessica. "So Derek's basically a professional homewrecker?" "That's one way to put it," Amanda said. "The point is, your wife isn't his first victim, and she won't be his last, unless we stop him." "How?" Amanda opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "I've been documenting Derek's pattern for years. I have evidence of at least 6 affairs, 3 broken marriages, 2 instances of financial fraud, and 1 case of identity theft." "Identity theft?" "He used my social security number to open credit cards after I left him. Ran up about $40,000 in debt before I caught him." "Jesus. The man is a predator, Mike. He targets vulnerable women, destroys their lives, and moves on to the next victim. Your wife is just the latest in a long line." I thought about Jessica, alone in that hotel room, calling her mother and being rejected. So, what do you want to do about it? I want to expose him, Amanda said. Completely, publicly. I want to make sure he never does this to anyone else. How? Melissa leaned forward. Amanda's a journalist now. She works for Channel 7 News. She's been waiting for the right opportunity to do a story about Derek's pattern of behavior. And now we have it, Amanda added. A current case with documentation, multiple witnesses, and victims who are willing to go on record. You want to put this on the news? I want to destroy Derek Parker the same way he's destroyed so many other people's lives. I want his face on television, his crimes exposed, his future ruined. I thought about it. The idea of Jessica and Derek's affair being broadcast on the evening news was certainly appealing, but something about it felt wrong. What about Jessica? She's a victim too, in a way. Amanda's expression softened slightly. We don't have to use her name. We can protect her identity while still exposing Derek's pattern. And what about Melissa? This affects her too. I'm willing to go public, Melissa said. I think other women deserve to know what kind of man Derek really is. My phone buzzed with a text message. Jessica. Mike, please. I know I screwed up. Can we meet somewhere and talk? Just the two of us? I showed the message to Amanda and Melissa. She's probably desperate, Melissa said. Derek hasn't spoken to her since the hotel incident. He's been avoiding her calls. How do you know that? I still have access to his phone records. He's been screening her calls for 3 days. So he's abandoning her. Just like he abandoned me, Amanda said. Just like he's abandoned every woman he's ever been with when things got complicated. I stared at Jessica's text message. Part of me, a small part, felt sorry for her. She'd made a terrible mistake, but she was paying a heavy price for it. She'd lost her job, her family's support, her home, and now apparently her boyfriend too. But then I remembered the text that had started all of this. I want an open marriage. I'm seeing Derek again. Not up for debate. Not up for debate. Like I was some employee she could just give orders to. Set up the interview, I told Amanda. I'll do it. Mike, are you sure? Melissa asked. Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. Jessica made her choice when she decided to humiliate me. Derek made his choice when he decided to destroy my marriage. Now they get to live with the consequences. Amanda smiled and pulled out a business card. I'll set something up for tomorrow. We'll do it at the station, make it look professional. What about Jessica's text? Answer it, Melissa suggested. Set up a meeting. Let her think she might be able to fix things. Why? Because while she's focused on trying to win you back, she won't be paying attention to what we're really doing. I looked at the text again and typed back, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Rosie's Diner. Jessica's response was immediate. Thank you, I'll be there. Perfect, Amanda said. The story will air at 6. She'll see it right before your meeting. That seems cruel. So was cheating on your husband and then demanding an open marriage via text message, Melissa pointed out. She had a point. We spent the next hour going over the details. Amanda would interview me, Melissa, and 2 other women who'd been involved with Derek over the years. The story would air as part of the evening news, focusing on Derek's pattern of predatory behavior toward married women. What about Derek himself? I asked. Will you try to interview him? Oh, we'll definitely try, Amanda said with a grin. We'll show up at whatever hotel he's staying at and ask him to comment on the allegations. Should make for good television. As we were getting ready to leave, my phone rang. Vernon Henderson. Mike, I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. I've been going through Jessica's work files, and I found some things you should know about. What kind of things? Can you come by my office this afternoon? I'd rather show you in person. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up and looked at Amanda and Melissa. Jessica's uncle wants to see me, says he found something in her work files. This should be interesting, Melissa said. Want some company? Amanda asked. Actually, yeah, I think I do. Vernon Henderson's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all dark wood and leather furniture. Vernon himself looked like Central Casting's idea of a successful small-town businessman. Silver hair, expensive suit, firm handshake. Mike, thank you for coming, he said, then looked at Amanda and Melissa. I wasn't expecting... They're with me, I said. Whatever you have to say, they can hear it. Vernon nodded and gestured for us to sit. What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this room without my permission. Understood? We all nodded. Vernon opened a file cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. I've been going through Jessica's computer files and email records. What I found is disturbing. He spread several documents across his desk. Email printouts, financial records, what looked like legal documents. Jessica has been stealing from the company for over a year, Vernon said bluntly. Small amounts at first, but it escalated. She's taken approximately $43,000. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Stealing how? False expense reports, mostly. Fake receipts for business meals and travel. She created a shell company and billed us for services that were never provided. She even forged my signature on several checks. Amanda was taking notes. Do you have documentation of all this? Extensive documentation. I've already turned everything over to the police. The police? Jessica is going to be arrested for embezzlement, Mike, probably within the next few days. I stared at the papers spread across Vernon's desk. How long have you known? I suspected something was wrong a few months ago, but I couldn't prove it. When you called me about the affair, I decided to dig deeper. That's when I found all this. Why are you telling me? Vernon's expression was grim. Because some of the money she stole was used to finance her affair with Derek Parker. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry. She was literally stealing from my company to pay for her betrayal of you. The room was silent for a long moment. There's something else, Vernon continued. I found emails between Jessica and Derek discussing their plans. They weren't just having an affair, Mike. They were planning to take you for everything you're worth. He handed me a printed email dated 2 weeks ago. Derek, Mike is so stupid he'll never see it coming. Once I get half his business and the house in the divorce, we can start fresh somewhere else. He'll probably just roll over and take whatever scraps I throw him. Jess? Are you sure he won't fight? Some of these blue-collar guys can be unpredictable when their pride gets hurt. Derek. Trust me, I know Mike. He's weak. He'll cry and beg me to come back. And when that doesn't work, he'll just give up. By Christmas, we'll be living in his house and running his business. Jess? I read the email 3 times before the words really sank in. She was planning to steal my business? More than that, Vernon said. Look at this. He showed me another email, this one from Derek to Jessica. Jess, I talked to my lawyer friend about your situation. If you can prove Mike has been hiding assets or cheating on taxes, you could get more than half in the divorce. Maybe we should look into his business records, see if there's anything we can use. Derek, they were planning to frame me for something? It looks that way. Jessica has been copying your business files for weeks. Bank records, tax returns, client information. I think they were looking for anything they could use against you. Amanda looked up from her notes. This changes everything. This isn't just adultery anymore. This is conspiracy to commit fraud. It gets worse, Vernon said. Show them the other folder. Melissa opened a second folder and pulled out more emails. These were between Jessica and someone named Carol. Who's Carol? I asked. Jessica's best friend from college, Vernon explained. She's a divorce attorney in the city. I read the email chain with growing disbelief. Carol, I need advice. I want to leave Mike for Derek, but I want to make sure I get as much as possible in the divorce. What's the best strategy? Jess, document everything. His drinking, his temper, any time he's been inappropriate or threatening. If you can build a case for emotional abuse, you'll get a much better settlement. Carol. What if I can't prove abuse? Jess, then you'll have to be creative. Maybe he gets drunk and threatens you. Maybe he becomes violent. These things happen, and judges tend to believe women in these situations. Carol, you're talking about lying in court. Jess, I'm talking about protecting yourself and securing your future. Mike will be fine. He's got his little garage. You deserve better than that. Carol. I set the papers down and looked at Vernon. She was planning to accuse me of domestic violence? It appears so, and her lawyer friend was encouraging it. The room was spinning. I'd known Jessica was selfish and manipulative, but this was beyond anything I'd imagined. She hadn't just cheated on me, she'd been planning to destroy me completely. Vernon, Amanda said, would you be willing to go on camera with this information? What do you mean? I'm doing a story about Derek Parker's pattern of predatory behavior. This adds a whole new dimension. It shows how he and his victims conspire to destroy innocent people. Vernon thought about it. If it helps protect other people from what Mike went through, then yes, I'll do it. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage. I need some air. Outside Vernon's office, I called Tommy Brennan. Tommy, I need you to file criminal charges against Jessica. Conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted extortion, whatever you can make stick. Mike, what's going on? I told him about the emails, the stolen money, the plan to frame me for domestic violence. Jesus Christ, Mike. Are you sure about all this? I have documentation. Lots of it. Bring it to my office first thing tomorrow morning. We'll file charges immediately. I hung up and went back inside. Amanda, Melissa, and Vernon were huddled around the desk, going through more papers. How bad is it? I asked. Bad, Amanda said. But also good. This is going to be one hell of a story. When do we do this? Tonight. We'll film the interviews this evening and air the story tomorrow. By the time Jessica meets you at Rosie's, everyone in town will know exactly what kind of person she really is. I thought about Jessica's text message, about her desperate plea to meet and talk. She probably thought she could manipulate me one more time, convince me to take her back, maybe even get me to drop the divorce proceedings. She had no idea what was coming. Let's do it, I said. Let's end this. The Channel 7 news story aired at 6 o'clock on Thursday evening. I watched it from the bar at Rosie's Diner, nursing a beer and waiting for Jessica to arrive. The place was packed. Apparently word had gotten out that the story involved local people, and everyone wanted to see it. Amanda had done a masterful job. The piece was titled Predator in Paradise, How One Man Destroyed Multiple Marriages, and it laid out Derek's entire pattern of behavior with devastating precision. She interviewed me, Melissa, 2 other victims, and Vernon Henderson. She even managed to get Derek on camera, ambushing him outside his hotel as he tried to get into his car. Mr. Parker, do you have any comment on allegations that you've been systematically targeting married women for affairs? Amanda's voice was crisp and professional. Derek looked like a deer in headlights. I don't know what you're talking about. We have documentation showing you've been involved in at least 6 extramarital affairs over the past 5 years, resulting in multiple divorces and financial ruin for your victims' families. That's ridiculous. We also have evidence that you and Jessica Henderson conspired to defraud her husband and falsely accuse him of domestic violence. Derek's face went white. I'm not answering any more questions. He tried to get in his car, but Amanda followed with the camera. Mr. Parker, Jessica Henderson stole over $40,000 from her uncle's company to finance your affair. Did you know the money she was spending on you was stolen? Derek slammed his car door and drove off, but the damage was done. The story made him look exactly like what he was, a coward and a predator. The coverage of Jessica was more limited. Amanda had kept her promise to protect Jessica's identity to some extent, but anyone who knew us would recognize the situation immediately. By 6:30, my phone was buzzing with calls and texts from friends, customers, and people I hadn't heard from in years. The general consensus seemed to be shock at Derek's behavior and sympathy for me. At 6:45, Jessica walked into Rosie's. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She'd obviously been crying recently. She spotted me at the bar and walked over slowly, like she was approaching a dangerous animal. Mike, she said quietly. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. Sit down, Jessica. She slid onto the bar stool next to me and ordered a coffee with shaking hands. Did you see the news tonight? I did. Interesting story. They made Derek look like some kind of monster. Didn't they? She turned to face me, and I could see desperation in her eyes. Mike, I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. I made a terrible mistake, but I never wanted to hurt you. Is that right? Derek, he's not the person I thought he was. He's been lying to me, manipulating me. I see that now. I took a sip of my beer. When did you figure that out? When you saw him on the news denying everything? When you found out he'd been calling you nothing to his wife? Or when he stopped returning your calls? Jessica's face crumpled. You knew he stopped calling me? I know a lot of things, Jessica. More than you think. Mike, please. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I love you. Do you? Or do you just love the idea of not being alone and unemployed? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you what I learned today. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos Vernon had given me of Jessica's emails. This is an email you sent to Derek 2 weeks ago. Would you like me to read it out loud, or would you prefer to read it yourself? Jessica looked at the screen and went pale. Where did you get that? Your uncle found it when he was investigating the money you stole from his company. $43,000, Jessica. You stole $43,000 to finance your affair. I didn't steal anything. Those were legitimate business expenses. For a fake company you created, for hotel rooms where you met your boyfriend, for jewelry you bought with company credit cards. Jessica was crying now, but I wasn't finished. Then there's this one, I continued, scrolling to another email. Your conversation with Carol about how to frame me for domestic violence. how to be creative about getting a better divorce settlement. Mike, I never would have actually. Actually what? Actually lied in court about me hitting you? Actually destroyed my reputation and my business? Actually sent me to jail for something I didn't do? I was confused. I was scared. Derek was telling me that you'd try to take everything from me in the divorce. So you decided to take everything from me first. Jessica grabbed my arm. Mike, please. I know how this looks, but you have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. I felt trapped. Our marriage was stagnant, and Derek made me feel alive again. Our marriage was stagnant because you stopped participating in it. You checked out emotionally years ago, and I was too stupid to see it. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time we had a real conversation? When's the last time you asked me about my day, my business, my dreams? When's the last time you treated me like a partner instead of an inconvenience? Jessica didn't have an answer for that. The truth is, Jessica, you never loved me. You loved what I could provide for you. A house, financial security, someone to take care of you while you figured out what you really wanted. And the minute you thought you found something better, you were ready to throw me away. That's not true. I did love you. Then why did you plan to steal my business? Why did you plan to frame me for domestic violence? Why did you tell Derek I was weak and stupid and would just roll over and take whatever you gave me? Jessica was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. Mike, please, I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling, I'll pay back the money I took, I'll make this right somehow. It's too late for that? It's not too late. We can start over. I stood up and put a 20 on the bar. Yes, we can start over, but not together. I'm starting over without you. Mike, wait. I turned back to her. Jessica, tomorrow morning you're going to be arrested for embezzlement and conspiracy to commit fraud. Your lawyer friend Carol is also being investigated for ethics violations. Derek has already been fired and will probably face criminal charges himself. Your family has disowned you. Your friends have abandoned you. You have no job, no money, and no future. I know all that. That's why I need you. No, Jessica. That's why you think you need me. But what you actually need is to face the consequences of your choices and figure out how to rebuild your life without destroying someone else's. I walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at her one more time. For what it's worth, I did love you. For 15 years, I loved you completely and unconditionally. I would have done anything for you, forgiven you anything, given you everything I had. All you had to do was love me back. I did love you back. No, Jessica, you didn't. And that's the saddest part of all of this. I left her crying at the bar and walked out into the cool evening air. My phone was buzzing with messages, but I ignored them. I had one more stop to make. Derek was staying at the Comfort Inn on the other side of town. Melissa had texted me the address. I found him in the parking lot, loading suitcases into his BMW. He looked up as I approached and took a step back. Mike, look, I'm sorry about all this. I never meant... Save it, Derek. I'm not here to fight with you. Then what do you want? I handed him an envelope. Legal documents. You're being sued for alienation of affection, conspiracy to commit fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. My lawyer estimates we can get about $200,000 in damages. Derek's hands were shaking as he opened the envelope. $200,000? I don't have that kind of money. I know. That's why we'll be garnishing your wages for the next 20 years, assuming you can find another job after being fired for moral turpitude. This is insane. You can't. I can, and I am. You destroyed my marriage, Derek. You conspired with my wife to steal my business and frame me for crimes I didn't commit. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Derek looked around the parking lot like he was searching for an escape route. Look, Mike, maybe we can work something out. I could pay you back over time, or... The time for working things out was before you decided to sleep with my wife. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Derek, you might want to check the news tomorrow. The story about you is going national. Amanda sold it to CNN. Derek's face went white. National? Apparently stories about predators who target married women are pretty popular right now. Something about the sacra Me Too movement. You're going to be famous. I left Derek standing in the parking lot and drove home to my empty house. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. 2 days later, Jessica was arrested at the hotel where she'd been staying. The local newspaper ran her mugshot on the front page with the headline, "Local Woman Charged in Embezzlement Scheme." She was released on bail but had to surrender her passport and agree not to leave the state. Derek disappeared entirely. His BMW was found abandoned at the airport, and Melissa discovered he'd cleaned out what was left of their joint bank account. The FBI was looking for him in connection with the identity theft charges Amanda had mentioned, but so far he hadn't been found. Melissa and I had coffee again the following week. She looked better than I'd seen her since this whole thing started. Relaxed, confident, free. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than I expected. You?" "The same. It's amazing how much lighter you feel when you're not carrying around someone else's lies." "Have you heard anything from Derek?" "Nothing, but his credit cards are being used in Mexico, so I assume that's where he went." "Will you try to find him?" "Why? So I can drag him back here to face charges? Let Mexico have him. He's their problem now." We talked for another hour about practical things. Divorce proceedings, asset division, the criminal cases. It was all moving forward smoothly. Jessica's theft had been so well documented that her lawyer was advising her to take a plea deal. Derek's disappearance had actually simplified Melissa's divorce. She'd get everything by default. "What are you going to do now?" I asked as we were getting ready to leave. "I'm thinking about moving back to California. I have family there, and I need a fresh start." "That sounds good. What about you?" I thought about it. "I'm going to rebuild. The business, the house, my life. But this time, I'm going to be more careful about who I trust." That's probably wise. 3 months later, Jessica pleaded guilty to embezzlement and was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 5 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay full restitution to Vernon's company, which meant she'd be in debt for the rest of her life. The divorce was finalized a month after that. I kept the house, the business, and all our assets. Jessica got nothing, which was exactly what she'd brought to the marriage in the first place. Derek was eventually caught in Tijuana and extradited back to face charges. He pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and identity theft and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. The civil lawsuit I'd filed against him resulted in a judgment for $300,000, which I'd probably never see but which would follow him for the rest of his life. 6 months after it all started, I was back in my garage, working on a 1967 Mustang that a collector had brought in for restoration. It was detailed, precise work that required patience and skill. Exactly the kind of thing I was good at. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mike, this is Jessica. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday." I read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. Some things didn't deserve a response. The Mustang's engine was in pieces on my workbench, each part carefully labeled and organized. It would take weeks to rebuild it properly, but when I was done, it would run better than it had in decades. Sometimes the best way to fix something is to tear it down completely and start over. I picked up a wrench and got back to work.